While I am a bit late to the party, I recently had some time to check out Phoenix Point, a brand new turn-based tactics game from Snapshot Games. It's available on PC exclusively on the Epic Store, and you can get it on Mac, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's positioned as a spiritual successor to the original XCOM games created by Julian Gollop, who is coincidentally the lead designer of Phoenix Point. But it also takes inspiration from Firaxis XCOM remake, mainly in the visual department. So basically, Phoenix Point is for those who like XCOM but weren't satisfied with XCOM, so they wanted an XCOM that was more like XCOM than XCOM. Simple, right? So I've played around 4 hours of the game so far, and I wanted to give some first impressions and thoughts from someone who was a huge fan of both Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2, but not so much of the original game or its other spiritual successor, Xenonauts. And I'm not going to lie, the main barriers for me regarding those titles were their graphics and presentation. So I was hopeful that Phoenix Point would be able to give me the best of both worlds, the depth of the original XCOM and Xenonauts, combined with the pretty graphics and user-friendly presentation of Enemy Unknown and its sequel. And from what I've played so far, it's definitely on the right track. Contrary to its counterparts, Phoenix Point doesn't pit you against an alien menace, but rather a horrific zombie-like virus called the Pandora virus. Long story short, it's spread throughout the oceans from melting polar ice caps, and it's turned all sea life into horrifying monsters that then came up onto the land and basically just spread the disease to humans and just about everything else. And it's combined everything and everyone into horrific mutated monstrosities. Humanity's on the brink of extinction, and it's up to you, as one of the leaders of the Phoenix Project, to save us from total annihilation. No pressure. If you've played Enemy Unknown or XCOM 2, you'll probably feel right at home playing Phoenix Point, at least initially anyway. The first time I saw the game, I was taken aback by how similar it is visually, especially when you're in the field. While its base and geoscape systems are handled differently, controlling your soldiers on the ground is basically ripped from those games. But I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. Its gameplay is very similar, so if the layout and UI already works great, then why bother changing something for no reason? Where Phoenix Point differentiates itself in gameplay is in the amount of depth it has across all of its mechanics, and also just how many of those mechanics it has to begin with. A unique one that comes to mind is the body part system. It's actually similar to something like VATS from the Fallout series, where you can, say, shoot a gun out of the enemy's arm, or just take the arm right off so they can't use their weapon. There's also a swath of equipment loadouts, enemy types, enemies that can mutate over time to change how they fight, special abilities, the list goes on. And that's all on top of the familiar ones like having an amount of points for movement and soldier actions, different types of cover, and of course your soldier classes and ability trees. Though speaking of that last one, I did find it a bit lacking as there weren't any branching paths or anything like that, at least not that I've found so far. You basically just get the ones that they set out and you can choose to unlock them or not, providing you have the points as your soldier levels up. But what's lacking, at least in my mind, is a great user experience. The UI can often be confusing for even someone like me who's played the Firaxis XCOM games, and the tutorial isn't great at explaining all the game's nuances, so you're often left to just make your own way and figure it out as you go along. And that describes the campaign experience quite well too. As the tutorial completes, you're really just left to your own devices and you aren't given a lot of guidance into what you should be doing. There's a story to follow, but it's not as streamlined as what you can do in XCOM Enemy Unknown or XCOM 2. The lore is interesting though, and the amount of information you can glean from researching monster autopsies will keep you interested for a while. And there's definitely a lot to go into if you're into that sort of thing. And the campaign is mostly procedurally generated, so you're going to have a different experience each time. And that might be great for someone on their second, third, fourth, fifth playthrough, but to start with it can be a bit difficult to overcome. To understand how to play the campaign, it feels like you have to play a campaign first, which isn't a great experience for those new to the game. It all just makes the game feel a bit unwelcoming, and maybe not quite as refined as it could be. Combine that with some fairly frequent bugs, though not game-breaking ones, iffy performance when in the field, unnecessarily long enemy turn timers, and an often finicky UI, it really does feel like the game could have used a bit more time in the oven, so to speak. Enough time to, say, tighten up the performance in the UI, plus fix a few bugs, and work the new player experience some more. I enjoyed the 4 or so hours I played with it, and I think you'll appreciate it if you're someone looking for a fairly deep, turn-based tactics game with some pretty interesting lore and modern graphics. Especially so if you're a fan of XCOM Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2, but felt like it lacked the depth of its progenitor. With all that being said, Phoenix Point does feel like a bit of a lower budget version of XCOM Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2, with more mechanics and depth, so you can probably decide whether that's something you're into or not. Thanks for watching everyone, there's a link to the game down below if you're interested, and I would encourage you to check it out if you think it might be for you. I hope you all have a great Christmas and New Year's, and I'll see you all in 2020. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.